I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook, baby.
So,
Yeah.
Ben,
Yes.
I've always, since you've known me, I've always been pretty critical of the Academy Awards. I haven't really been watching them, and
Yes. Even
well,
though
I just
we do several episodes about him a year, but yes, I'm
yeah.
aware.
Well, I just found a new reason to not watch the Academy Awards.
Awesome. Let's hear
So
it.
this just came out. This is in Variety. Came out April 21st.
Mm.
Academy sets new Oscars rules for 2025. Here's one of the so some of the rules are just kind of standard, like they were a new category, I think, for casting and a few other little things, and putting guidelines around like AI usage in filmmaking.
Sure.
But there's one that really fucking irritated me. In a key procedural shift, Academy members are now required to view all nominated films within a category to be eligible to vote in the final round, because that wasn't required beforehand.
Right. Wait, they didn't have to watch the movies?
No. While it's surprising, exactly. So while it's surprising that this wasn't already a formal requirement, questions remain about how the Academy plans to verify compliance and enforce the rule.
So wait. What is that for every category or is Best Picture?
It says for within a category to be eligible to vote in the final round.
How do they prove it?
I don't know. But I mean, it also just makes me wonder, so you could just
How
vote on
close?
I didn't watch that movie, but he's a good guy, so I'll vote for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I have dinner at his house once a month, so he gets my vote. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I guess it must be bad if they have to say it.
Yeah, come on,
right?
guys, at least watch it.
And it's not it's also not like a process thing. Like, they get all the movies.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not on their dime, right? Or like their time or dime. They get the movies probably. I don't even know how they get them.
I actually have award screeners. Like, I have DVDs and Blu-rays of sent from the Academy.
Really?
Yeah,
Do they
because
still
remember
do that?
Jim, because he's part of the union, or and I'm not sure exactly how or why, because I don't think he's necessarily part of the Academy, but anyway, but somehow he was getting them in the mail. But they were just like,
Sure.
like if a movie was still in theaters, but it was considered but they wanted to get Oscar consideration, we'd get it in the mail. So it's like they make it easy for you. They send it to your house.
Right.
So it's not like it's like, I couldn't watch the film because I was filming something for the last 3 months. It's like it's there for you. You have it.
Yeah. It must have been so bad that people just were watching like one movie and be like, that one was pretty good.
Yeah.
And just didn't vote. Yeah.
But so I don't know. That's just
I thought you were gonna say like they have to have a trans sex worker in every cast or something.
Oh, right. Yeah.
To be eligible.
I didn't read the full article. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of that. I just kind of skimmed it. I didn't see anything really leaping out.
Right.
But yeah. Well, I know that this had been talked about for a while, of creating a category for casting. And yeah, I'm sure casting directors play a big part.
Casting directors?
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like the director still has the final say usually.
I'm sorry, it doesn't like, this is probably just my ignorance, but it doesn't seem like that hard of a job.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot of work, but it doesn't seem like something super specialized. I mean, I don't know if you like when you go to film school, like, do you get can you get a degree in filmmaking with an emphasis in casting? Like, it seems like like the screenplay, the writer and the director say, okay, for this role, so we want a male between 35 to 45, any race, must be this 6 feet tall, must be athletic because it's an action film. Go do it. It's like, okay, like it seems like it's more like an HR thing rather than like an artsy thing.
I always kind of figured it was the same person. Like, I just thought the director, why wouldn't the director be making those decisions? But maybe they have bigger things to worry about at that stage. I don't know.
Well, I think it also depends on the film because if you're a big enough director, if you're like Tarantino and you're like, oh, I want Brad Pitt to play this, and I have his number or I know his agent, I'll just directly set up a meeting. Whereas with other films, I think it's like we don't know we have a few ideas, but other than that, like we're gonna leave it to you to corral 50 to 100 potential actors and then whittle that down to the top 15.
If I was a director, I would want to do these things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at it way too much as an art form instead of a business.
Yeah.
But it's like they have other things they're doing.
Right.
There's what like the site. What's it called when you're like picking out where you're going to shoot?
Oh, like when you're scouting for
scouting. Yeah, scouting and I don't know, camera stuff. Like I know I'm not being very technical here, but I mean, like who are going to be the characters in your movie? Like seem like something that a director would just want to have control of.
Right, exactly. Like I said, like it seems like the casting director, it's more of like an administrative role of like, okay, I'm going to send emails out to all the agents that I know. If you have any actors, it seems more just like an administrative, just like office type of job. And then like,
yeah, it seems like not very hard to get a bunch of actors to audition for a movie. Like there's way more actors than there are demand.
Yeah.
Like then there's demand for actors. So.
And also, but it also depends. Like oftentimes Marvel Studios, like they'll cast an actor for a role for a character without any director. Like so they cast a few actors, but before the director was even hired. So it's like, okay, so that's made more by committee.
Yeah. I guess I always kind of assume like the director also wrote, like that's also not the case a lot.
Right.
I always kind of put director and screenwriter together, but that's actually not the case very often at all. Like screenwriters, some people, that's how they make their whole. I feel like a lot of screenwriters eventually get into directing, at least the really successful ones.
Yeah.
But I kind of forget that that's not always the same person.
And then sometimes for a role like I think for the Harry Potter movies, like they auditioned 2,000 kids, 2,000 boys to play Harry Potter. It's like I doubt that the director was involved with watching every single audition.
Yeah.
So that's where the casting director was like, okay, like I'm gonna get what I think are the best, the top 50 best ones, and then send those over to the director, and then he'll skim from. But even then, I don't see how that's necessarily like an art form, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
So all right. So another category. Great. That's what the Academy needs.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'll pay more attention to when I watch a movie. Be like, oh, I knew it was like John Smith. He cast that one.
Exactly.
So IMDb-ing John Smith casted movies.
I can see a John Smith cast when I see one. It's I know right off the bat.
It's all blonde women with huge tits, and there he is again, John Smith.
You've done it again, John Smith. But yeah. So anyway, just I think now you're not going to watch the Oscars anymore, right? Like you realize.
I liked it this year. Yeah, that was good.
But none of the voters watched the movies. So
it's fun. I watch, like, I'm a goddamn lawyer and writer, and I like watch more movies than these assholes who get to vote and get all these movies sent to their house. I'm like trying to find movies at the library that I can't stream.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they just text someone and a movie shows up for them.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Hollywood, so this was something that's been talked about. I've been hearing a lot of stuff from. So this was from I'm looking up his name because he does have a name. Well, I can't find his name, but anyway, he's the host of the Disaffected podcast, and he's he's a right-leaning sort of heterodox type of guy.
Okay.
And so he did this Twitter post. So it's not too long, so I'll just kind of read it and we'll kind of comment on it.
Cats being annoying.
In my lifetime, we won't have genuine stars again. Real stars are a creation of the 20th century. Be they politicians, actors, singers, they knew their job, and that was to entertain with a high level of professional craft. So this is something that I've been thinking about too. And some of you have said that Tom Cruise is like the last of like old school like movie stars.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. I think kind of was for a little bit, but he's well, we'll kind of get into that later on.
It's becoming a meme.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. There can be no stars in the 21st century. The magic is dead. All celebrities are overexposed, and when you can feel connected to them because you can talk to them or get a like on social media, the veil has been pulled down and everything is naked. There is a reason that photographs of beautiful people in underwear, lingerie, or even full clothing well cut are much more erotic than straight nudes in almost every case. The suggestion of what's inside is sexier than having the insides shoved in your face on a paper plate. And this is something that you and I have talked about a little bit too, where it's like, we don't hear so much about like, oh, the big sex scene in this movie. And I think part of it is like half the actresses that we see in movies today, like even if they're not nude, they're always posting pictures of themselves in bikinis on Instagram. So it's like, okay, it's just a little less clothing now that you do the sex
the allure isn't there anymore.
But if it was like, oh, Julia Roberts is doing her first sex scene, it's like we've never seen her naked before. So it's like,
well, yeah. So there definitely, so sex is definitely returned to movies. I mean, as someone who I try and watch a lot of movies like from the year I'm in, while also watching old like things from previous years or 50 years, 100 years ago, sometimes. So to like catch these patterns, but like sex is back in movies, but that doesn't mean the sex scene is back. Like the sex scene will not come back for the reasons you're saying. Just culture has changed, social media. That used to be the big thing. Like you said, it would be like Julia Roberts or I don't know, anyone, like any of these famous actresses,
like Sharon Stone and
Demi Moore. Yeah, Sharon Stone. That's a good one. And that's not even the sex scene. That's just her flashing her cooter. That I think stuff is pretty much gone. Maybe not the Sharon Stone thing, but like the sex scene is gone for a number of reasons. But sex is definitely bad for like 10 years or so, maybe more. There like just wasn't really sex in movies, and if it was kind of a punchline. It was more for comedic effect. I think like Booksmart, where there's a lesbianic sex scene and she like pukes on her because they're drunk and in high school or whatever, or just kind of like more comedic stuff. The Bridesmaids, where it's with John Hamm, and it's like John Hamm's a perfect example. That's a guy who, if he was an actor in like any time really before the present, let's say anytime from golden age of Hollywood through like the 90s, his sex scene would be huge. Like would be, and I know it's like a double, because apparently John Hamm is a huge dick, but like his sex scene would be like a big deal. He's a very handsome man. He's popular. He'd probably do a bunch of movies before that got him popular. Usually is how it works. And then there's all the build up to it. And actually, my wife and I, we finished Mad Men like probably a month ago. I'd seen it already. She hadn't. What I noticed, there's a lot of sex in that show, as in it's like it's insinuated, like he cheats on, like he bangs but there's actually very little sex shown. It might be because it's on AMC. It was an AMC show, so they can show. It was actually surprising how I didn't remember how, for as much sex and philandering and cheating is going on that show, they actually show very little of it. Like the allure. I mean, what I'm agreeing. I definitely agree with this. The person who said this. I'm not familiar with the podcast, but the person who said this, because, and I will give one. I think one counter to it, who I think could be, but the allure of celebrities is gone. It's been gone. I think even I think a lot of the reality TV killed it for some people. That was the bridge between old school like typical 90s Hollywood, and then where still very much was a thing. You had the young actors, right? The Brat Pack. And you had people like River Phoenix, and there was still this interest in celebrities and paparazzi, even in the early 2000s. And then the reality TV of the mid to late 2000s was the bridge to then social media, which just like for the vast majority of actors and actresses, I think ruined that concept.
Absolutely. It's not clear whether celebrities have always been as vapid, stupid, and completely disconnected from reality as they are today. I'm not even certain they were as narcissistic as they are today. All stars are narcissistic at base. I'm making a relative comparison. These people, including nobodies with one film credit or a YouTube-only series, make these arrogant and often profane pronouncements about politics, your family, and you. They brazenly insult the potential moviegoers, calling them names and insulting their character. It's incredible. You have never seen anything like this if you're 35 or older. Say what you will about arch narcissist Joan Crawford, for example, but she'd have killed herself before she was caught in public or private insulting fans. Like most of her era, she thanked her public every single time she was interviewed. Look around today and compare. Hollywood, I mean the entire world of entertainment, was always a fantasy, always a whorehouse built in a desert, always a refuge and scrabbling ladder for sadly damaged people thinking they can make things right just this one time. But it's never been as close to death as it is now, and I think it will die. There will be nothing left of it that we of the 20th century would recognize as Hollywood. So yeah, the overexposure thing is interesting. So I think social media and podcast appearances have really diluted the mystery of
That's a good one
movie
too.
stars.
I didn't think about that, podcast appearances.
I mean, it's like, Joe Rogan's like, I'm a fan of his show, and he's had Jamie Foxx on, he's had Robert Downey Jr. on his show, he's had a bunch of big A-list people on his show. Ben Affleck was just on Theo Von. So it's like, yeah. So it's like huge A-list celebrities.
Yeah.
And you also have celebrities who are starting podcasts, like Rainn Wilson from The Office has his own podcast.
I mean, I think they all do now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they pretty much all do. So actually, let me ask first, and then I want to ask another question. I do think, unless he changes his ways, I think Timothée Chalamet could be the next movie star. I know he's not the typical movie star, like the male movie star that has who was like Rudy Valentino. Would he be considered like the first movie star, going into people like John Wayne, Clark Gable? Who am I missing? Who's in North by Northwest? Who's Cary Grant?
Oh, Cary Grant, yeah.
Yeah, Cary Grant. Going through each kind of layer of movie making up until, let's say, Tom Cruise now. I think Chalamet, but I think times are different. So Chalamet in today's world, I think, could be. He hasn't taken the bait of, as much as I know, he doesn't really do podcasts. Maybe he does.
He was on Theo Von recently.
Oh, was he? Oh, there you go. All right,
yeah.
So maybe so maybe you're right. Like what we have considered to be a movie star, using those parameters won't exist anymore. It just won't.
Right.
But if you change a little, if you move the goalposts a little, where you're not completely erasing what that term means, I think Chalamet might be as close as it gets.
Right.
And it's also kind of counterintuitive, because I think it was Leo who told Chalamet to don't do anything in, I think he said in a cape, but I think he meant like superhero, because like Dune, he wears a cape, but it's like different. It's like don't do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so far he hasn't. When he could probably do any role he wants.
Sure.
And a Marvel like movie, if not a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And I like his drive. We've talked about how he gave that speech or whatever. How he wants to be the best. That era of like irony is coming, I think, changing with the younger generation. And like the perseverance of being the best is kind of back in style in a way. Maybe I'm overstating that, but I think that's the only, I can't think of anyone else, unless you can, who and I can't think of any women who, like female actresses, who it would be. And they've always kind of been operating on different playing field for that definition. Right. But I do want to see, I think Chalamet, he has the range, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. Like, he's doing the big sci-fi, and I love Dune. I think it's exceptional. Yeah. And then he's done like mumblecore type movies. He's done smaller roles. He's done, he's been someone who like eats people. He was in Bones and All. He was in Lady Bird. Like, he played a drug addict. I feel like that's a rite of passage, is playing the drug addict in the movie. What's that? Beautiful Boy. So I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I think he's right though, that the author of this is right.
Yeah.
Where like that era, but I also don't think that's new. I think it's been dead.
Yeah, it's been dead for a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you know, the overexposure thing is interesting because I think sometimes it makes actors, movie stars, more relatable, and sometimes it makes them less relatable, and both are
Sure.
bad. So Rainn Wilson, for example, and I'm not shitting on him in any real way, but it's like so he's got a podcast, and he often interviews other actors, and other famous people.
Of course.
But he's also appeared on a lot of other podcasts, and he's really into like spirituality and religion and belief and happiness. So he's actually a pretty thoughtful guy. But so on the one hand, I admire that about him, where he doesn't seem like some vapid, empty-headed actor. He actually seems pretty thoughtful and interesting.
Yeah.
But he's also less mysterious now. So it's like, so he's, because he's more relatable. It's like, okay, if I would not be starstruck by him if I saw him in a cafe, I would be like, oh hey, I listened to your thing about you know, spirituality. Like it's like,
yeah.
So there's that stuff.
That's a good point, where it's like either like hearing actor, you know, whoever, name an actor on Rogan. Like Rogan is the epitome of just like dude, in many ways. You know, he's the MMA and health and hunting fitness and fitness, and all that, and comedy and all that sort of stuff. So like if I like, let's say, who are my favorite actors? If I mean, besides Chalamet, I don't know if I really care. I think that's my point, and maybe I'm an exception to this. Like, I don't think any actors on Instagram. I don't think I follow. Maybe on Twitter, when I first started Twitter, I think, you know, they give you people to follow. Like, oh, you should follow. So I followed like Conan O'Brien, who I still do, and
well, he's actually fun. He actually posts funny things. So
he's funny, and like, but I don't just like go follow my and one thing, and I'm not trying to like, you know, pontificate here or like build myself up, but I was also never one of those guys who had like a bunch of like women in bikini posters in my room or in my dorm. Like I never had like that. There were always the classic ones. Like I never had like the hot chicks. And I'm kind of the same way. Like I was never like, oh, I need to get the Sports Illustrated swimsuit. Like that was when I was, you know, growing up, that was a thing. I was always much more like bands and sports and not like politicians, but just like cultural, like other cultural things. And I was into like a lot of like gangster stuff, like Scarface and Sopranos and then that sort of shit. So maybe I'm not the best. I might be an outlier here, but a lot of guys, like I don't follow. You know, like there's always jokes like, oh, like you don't let your girlfriend or whoever see like the babes you're following on Instagram. Like I don't follow any babes. Like I don't follow like dump truck butts or anything. Like, like it's also so easy to access that stuff now. It's kind of like you're doing it to yourself, dude. Just like don't follow that shit, and then you can just go find it whenever you want. The touch of the swipe of a finger. So anyway, that's just another part to me. Like I never really cared for that stuff. Like in that way. I'm not saying yes. I like who doesn't like seeing beautiful people, like regardless of their gender. That's why I like that's another like getting back to the set. I know I'm being like circular here, but getting back to the sex thing, I remember hearing someone close to me say, you know, like the show Girls. Like I actually really like the show Girls, and not in like an ironic way. Like I really like the show Girls, but it's like I don't want to. And someone says to me, "It's like I don't want to see Lena Dunham have sex. Like that's not one. I want to see like beautiful people have sex. I don't want to see Lena Dunham have sex." And like that's what the 2010s was really about, was people like that having sex on TV, and it was about like free expression and that sort of thing, instead of the typical like Daryl Hannah sex scene or something like that, right? The typical skinny, tall blonde. So I forgot how we got here. I guess my point is I don't want to say I don't care, but I'm generally someone who, even like politics, right? I don't generally care I know I'm going to disagree with a lot of these people and their politics. I'm not going to stop watching their movies.
Right.
Unless they're like really horrible, like once in a while, like I won't extend myself, or if I'm on the fence about watching a movie and this person has really, really shitty politics, I'm not going to, I won't watch it, but I'm not going to withhold watching something I think I might enjoy because of that person's politics. So I guess I've always just separated them anyway. And as long as good movies are still being made, which I definitely think there are, I think there are a lot of great movies still being made.
Of course.
And I don't just mean to be the film school guy, like, oh, it's the indie stuff you guys say. No, I think a lot of regular good movies are being made. That as long as that keeps happening, I don't really care. I'm actually kind of for it. I don't like these people having, because a lot of times of their politics having an outsized effect on culture.
Right. Well, getting back to the relatability thing. So, I shared an example of an actor, someone who's pretty big who comes off as more relatable, but that removes the movie star mystique. And then there's the other side where it's like, so when we were growing up, we always knew that Hollywood A-listers were unrelatable because they they lived in mansions, they drove fancy sports cars, and they married other famous actors, right? So there was like this huge divide between us and them. But there was like this weird attempt in recent years of like, oh look, I'm actually starting to become a little more relatable. But now it's actually like they're still unrelatable, but it's like by now you're just a couple stratas above me now. Now you're just being really obnoxious. So I'm talking like Gwyneth Paltrow and Goop. I'm talking like, did you see like with Love, Megan, the new Meghan Markle Netflix show?
No, I've heard Tim Dillon like talk about it. I thought it was called like a little what? I thought it had a different
With Love,
name.
Megan.
Oh, that's what it is. I thought it was like Little Moments or something. No, that's not
no. But I mean, that's a great way to describe, or that's such a like. But that sort of thing of like, I'm just a little bit richer than you. So it's like, well, now you're just coming off as obnoxious. Like, I would rather see you like partying with like hookers and cocaine, because I'd be like, I'll never have that lifestyle. But I can see why you'd be into that. But it's like, oh, that you shop at a grocery store that's just slightly more expensive than the one I do, and you throw parties with people who are just slightly more famous. So it's just like, now you're just coming off as obnoxious, but you're trying to portray yourself as being relatable, but it's actually just having the exact opposite effect now.
Yeah, people can see right through that shit too.
Exactly, yeah. And so now there's this other thing where it's like a lot of celebrities are becoming brands. So it's like, so many of them have a wine, have their own winery. The Rock has a tequila brand, and so when you go to his Instagram, it's him. Like it seems like him just, hey guys, I'm eating a really good meal. I'm eating some steak, and by the way, I'm drinking some tequila. Be sure to check it out. So it's like now you're more of a spokesperson.
Terramana tequila.
Yeah, and it's like you're a spokesperson rather than an actor. Like, so it's just like, again, like instead of being like you're an amazing entertainer, all of your movies have been huge, and you're known for doing this type of character, and you do it really well. So now you sell tequila now on your Instagram, and while trying to like seem cool and like, hey guys, I cooked dinner, check it out. And so it's like, so now like, besides all of like the political stuff, now it's just like these people just come off as unbelievably obnoxious now.
Yeah. This reminded me of, I'm trying to find it. I don't know why. It's very annoying when you just want to find like something real quick and it just won't give it to you. But basically it's a essay from Joan Didion, where she's talking about this, where John, and it's a really beautiful passage that I'm just trying to find. So hold on. John Wayne passage. And what she's saying is like what that this ruined men for her, more or less. It's she watched this, I can't find it, so I'm supposed to paraphrase it. I think it's in Slouching Towards Bethlehem, and she went to go see a movie when she was pretty young, like a young woman or a young girl. I think she was like a teenager, and it's John Wayne, and he says something along the lines of like, I'll build you a house in the bend of the river where the cottonwoods grow. And he was just like this manly man, and he kind of epitomized the old West, and that changed her view of men. Like that didn't change her view of men, that cemented her view of men. And she says and I feel bad, like I'm trying to try living up to John Wayne, who himself was not a fucking cowboy. People don't like, he was an actor.
Yeah.
He was not an actual cowboy.
Right.
But you have John Wayne, who is the biggest actor of the time, or at least in that, in that big, Westerns were huge at the time.
Yep.
And she's like, I dated and loved a lot of great men with, incredible skills and talents and all of that. But honestly, they never lived up to John. I never had that man who said, I'll build you a house in the river where the cottonwoods grow, and the bend of the river where the cottonwoods grow. And it like changed her entire parameters, or the bar for what she wanted in a man. Now, I can't imagine that there are any actors now who can have that effect on someone.
Right.
I really want to find this. I'm frustrated because I have it on my shelf right back there, but I don't want to get up. I have a cat on my lap.
I have it.
How did you find it? All right.
I just typed in Joan Didion and then John Wayne.
I did too, like 50 times, but okay.
Yeah, so I have that passage. Want me to read that paragraph?
Yeah, read that paragraph.
We went 3 and 4 afternoons a week, sat on folding chairs in the darkened Quonset hut, which served as a theater, and it was there that summer of 1943, while the hot wind blew outside, and I first saw John Wayne, saw the walk, heard the voice, heard him tell the girl in a picture called War of the Wildcats that he would build her a house at the bend in the river where the cottonwoods grow. As it happened, I did not grow up to be the kind of woman who's the heroine in a Western, and although the men I have known have had many virtues and have taken to me to live in many places I have come to love, they have never been John Wayne, and they have never taken me to that bend in the river where the cottonwoods grow. Deep in that part of my heart, where the artificial rain forever falls, that is still the line I wait to hear. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough bar to reach as a man dating Joan Didion.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing, though. And I'm glad you brought up John Wayne, because he typified the masculine cowboy rugged archetype, and it sold really well. And so it's like you could sell a movie based on his inclusion in that movie alone. I know that some movies he starred in where he played like a historical figure or was based on an existing property, but for the most part, so you know what I'm getting at, where it's like it's IP based now.
He played
Genghis Khan. Yeah. And did I tell you about this? Hold
on, I want to give a posthumous Academy Casting Director Award to whoever cast John Wayne as Genghis Khan.
Yeah,
in that movie.
I think I told you about this. So they shot that in New Mexico, like in the desert near where they were doing like nuclear bomb testing. So then almost everybody who worked on that ended up getting cancer later on in life. And then they actually brought some of that to Hollywood for some reshoots. And then even more people got cancer from this irradiated sand and dirt. So
I don't know what they were doing back then. They were blowing shit up, and
it's got a half-life of like 3 months, I guess. Why not?
Yeah. Well, we had deadlines to meet. Doesn't matter if we're overlapping with the nuclear test.
But yeah, I mean, and Tarantino's talked about this, where he goes, people don't go to see a Chris Evans movie. He might be a big A-lister, but they're not going to see a Chris Evans movie. They're going to see Captain America. And even if it was Chris Evans starring in a non-Captain America movie, it's not, oh, I love Chris Evans. It's like, oh, Captain America is in this romantic comedy. So it's like,
I guess I do agree that like Chris Evans, who I like, doesn't have the appeal as Captain America does, but I don't know if that's necessarily true about every actor. I mean, I know I feel very.
Yeah, it's not about every actor, but it's like that's definitely one way that IP is gradually like overtaking stardom.
Oh, absolutely, yes, absolutely, and I think it has. I don't think that's even like questionable at this point. Like IP is everything.
Well, that's why I brought up Robert Downey Jr. because he already had an impressive career before the legal troubles, and then he reemerged as Iron Man, and then Sherlock Holmes, and now he's an actor, and now he's got an Oscar and everything. But it's like it seemed for a while there, it's like because where he seemed kind of like one of the few like movie stars where you could sell a movie based on his inclusion. I don't think that's true anymore. Now I think he's just he's still just Iron Man, and he's back in the MCU now. So
well, he's what's his name? Tony Stark.
Yeah, Tony Stark.
Yeah,
now
he's like kind of taken on that persona.
Yeah,
it feels like. Yeah, I think where this might still exist more are like directors. Like I will just go see the David Fincher movie.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is about.
Yeah.
I will see it. I will see the Chris Nolan movie. I will see obviously Tarantino. Like I'll just see any of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I'm not even thinking of. Like I'm not nearly as married to IP or I guess I just have like broad interests, and I'll like if there's a certain director, I'll give them pretty much. Maybe if it's like imagine like a Fincher kids movie or something, but like maybe that I wouldn't like I don't know, like wouldn't you see any David Lynch movie?
Yeah,
like,
of course, absolutely. I mean, he did a G-rated Disney movie.
Yeah, that's on my list. The Straight Story. Like, I actually want to see it. It's supposed to be very good.
Yeah, no, you're right. So and even if the director who I really liked cast an actor I didn't like, I would still see it. I'd still, because sometimes I'd be like, oh, maybe that actor will actually shine in this Tarantino movie or in this Fincher movie or this Nolan movie. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that is interesting. That seems like directors are
why? Because directors aren't they're not posting their abs on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. Like they do have more of that. Like I don't even know what David Fincher looks like.
Yeah.
Picture. I swear I know what Chris Nolan looks like. Obviously Tarantino. Sure. Tarantino is more in the spotlight because he is such a connoisseur. Like he's a lover, and I'm not saying these other guys aren't and other gals aren't. Like they are, but Tarantino is kind of his own thing. He is much more of a persona. Yeah. He has acted in some movies. He's written a lot of movies. He is, when I think of just the love of cinema, I think of Tarantino. Yeah. And I think that's part of it all. Like I couldn't pick Fincher out of a lineup. I'm trying to think. I don't know what he looks like.
He looks like a dude. He looks very normal.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to say because
he
looks like.
Usually directors.
That's what he looks like.
Yeah, he just looks like some guy, huh?
That's not what I was expecting. Actually, no. I didn't think he looked like that.
Well, you bring up an interesting point though about how directors typically don't post as much on social media or not quite as vocal about politics. Like most of the time when they're in an interview or on a podcast, they're just talking about movies. And Tarantino's been on Joe Rogan a couple of times, and 90% of what he talks about is just movies and his career. So there's still like, I don't know what his daily routine is. I don't know what his interests. I don't know what type of food he likes. There's still like, he's just like this movie guy.
It's also why I tune in and why a lot of people, it's like, I don't care what a lot of people have to say about politics. They don't live in the real world. They either never did or they've been out of it for so long. Like, I don't give a shit what their views are on the vast majority of things. What I do care about is what they did for this role. How did they lose that weight even? How many times did they practice that shot? Whatever it is, like that kind of stuff. To be honest, I'm not even that interested in those things. I'm much more interested in what the directors have to say than what the actors have to say.
When actors, I mean, so fucking like Seth Rogen, who I think is funny and is reasonably talented, but he's so fucking obnoxious, like in real life and like on social media. He tweeted a few years ago. I guess he was at some awards, so probably the Golden Globes, but he was tweeting while he was at the Golden Globes. It's like, I'm really high right now. And then some girl quote tweeted it, and she goes, Seth Rogen has one joke and it's not even funny anymore. It's just like, but that's how he is in real life. He's just some like, I got really bored one day and I got really high with James Franco. It's just like, okay, you're really just stupid now. Like,
he feels like he never grew up. I agree though. I think he is a funny guy. Like, I think he's funny in a lot of movies.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't give a shit what Seth Rogen thinks about like Crimea. Like I don't care.
Yeah. So anyway.
I wanted to ask real quick, and I know we I don't know if we want to skip the next topic or save it or whatever. We can touch on it, but rock stars, like musicians, do you think that is still
I think that's dead.
You think that's dead too?
That's pretty dead too. Yeah. Well, I think because so many rock stars these days have become, politically vocal as well. So it's like nowadays, like when there's controversy around them, it's because they say something politically controversial. It's not because they got caught, banging a hooker in a hotel with cocaine or anything. It's just like, I mean, like hotel trashing isn't a thing anymore. Like they're not like. So I actually took you by the couple of times you've been to LA, and we're driving on Sunset Boulevard. We've passed by a hotel, and it's known as the Riot Hotel instead of the Hyatt. And so the reason why is because so many rock stars have partied there and destroyed it. So and to commemorate that, they actually have a big like sculpture of guitar. But yeah, like you just don't hear about like rock stars doing like getting arrested for DUIs and shit.
Yeah, really? What the hell?
I know.
I love that joke. Nick Swartzen was like, "Yeah, sometimes I'll like drink a bunch and I'll be like, I'm the fucking man. I can drink so much, and I come home and I'll watch like a behind the scenes with Motley Crue. Be like, Nikki Sixx used to funnel heroin out of a fire hose. It's like I'm a huge pussy."
Yeah, man. Rock stars are so clean now. So
they start dying young again.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fun. Like it's a whole bunch of things I don't want people to do, but it's also like, we were talking about like The Exorcist and how William Friedkin was very abusive towards his actors. Like, yeah, we don't approve of that, but at the same time, it's like it was kind of cool. Like that was like that's kind of a bygone era.
Yeah, I know Kubrick was.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Friedkin was also.
Yeah, I mean, like he would like physically like slap. Yeah, you remember the very ending scene when Damien Karras, like he's throwing himself out the window and he's down the stairs, and then his priest friend comes up to him and gives him like the last rites. So in the scene and during the shooting of that, he wasn't emotional enough because his friend is dying. So William Friedkin went up to him in between takes and said, "Hey, do you trust me?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he slapped him. And he told the camera operator, he goes, "All right, action." And then because when you see me giving him the last rites, my hand is shaking because I'm still like in shock that I just got slapped.
And you got the scene. Well, famously, it's what's her name from Infamous, I should say, from Shining.
Oh yeah,
where Kubrick made
Shelley
Duvall. The when she's like swinging the baseball bat and like walking up the stairs.
Yeah,
apparently they did that scene like 100 times or something crazy like that. But we
right.
don't condone it, but makes good art.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so the other one that you brought up, because it was kind of a longer article, we can probably dedicate.
All right, let's save it.
Just save it for next week, because I think the Reckless Wreck, I think you'll have some opinions on this one. So
let's do that. I tend to have those.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no. So did you have a recommendation? Do you have a Reckless Wreck for this week?
I don't want to force it, so I'll say no. Okay. Yeah, I'll say no. So let's just do yours.
Yeah. So I watched a short documentary, and it's actually on YouTube. It's 30 minutes long. It's called Life. Huh?
I said, give it to me. I'm ready.
I'll give it. It's called Life After Pie. So it's about this guy who spent his whole life eating pie, and then he stopped, and then and the movie's about his life. No, I'm kidding. No. So you know that movie Life of Pi?
Yes,
it was based on the novel.
Yes, I've not seen it, but I know it.
So that film, won a bunch of Oscars, including the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Now, this documentary, Life After Pi, it tells the story of the visual effects company called Rhythm and Hues, and they've been around since the 80s, I think, and they've done a lot of big films. How 11 days after winning the Oscar for their work on that film, they went bankrupt, and the whole film is just the whole document. It's pretty short; it's just 30 minutes long. But it's really into. I know you're a big labor boy. It's really about the terrible working conditions that visual effects artists have in Hollywood.
Wow.
And they made it themselves, and they put it on documentary on YouTube to help spread the word about this.
Yeah.
But I did I'd known for a little bit that it's kind of a fucked up industry, but this really shone a spotlight on how bad, how fucked up. So the way it works typically is that there are a bunch of visual effects companies in Hollywood, and a studio will approach them about doing effects for a movie, and then a VFX company will say, okay, we can do all of those shots for $25 million. And then the studio will be like, well, this other company said that they'll do it for 22 million. So then they're like, okay, we'll do it for 20 million. It's like, okay, cool. And then you have exactly 6 months to do these effects in. Like, okay, that's fine. We can do that. But there are a couple of caveats. One, that fixed date, it's like when it comes to release dates, studios rarely ever budge. And they rarely ever do it for visual effects companies. That, and it's a fixed bid. So it's like, hey, if you have to do extra work, you cannot raise the price because you agreed 20 million. Like, so what happens a lot in production of films is like, executives will get involved and they'll be like, oh, we don't like this shot. We want you to redo it, or we want you to cut it. And then the VFX company, they're not in a position to say, okay, we can redo it, but it's going to cost you an extra $100,000. It's like, no, you have to redo that shot from scratch, and you still have to meet the deadline, and we're not going to pay you more. So the company has to pay their employees out of pocket to get that work done.
Very interesting. I just added it, by the way, to my watch list. So I found it. Yeah,
but it was really tragic though about this company because they've done a lot of big movies, and so seemed like they did. Like even winning an Oscar didn't save them from having to declare bankruptcy. Like I know you don't get money, but you would think that there would be renewed interest in that company.
Sure. That is. I mean that's tragic. I haven't seen the movie either, so I can't even speak to that.
Right.
But it definitely sounds like something that's right up my alley.
And another thing too about this, about how fucked up the industry is towards VFX artists. So oftentimes because of the tax credits in Canada, like a lot of productions will be shot in Canada. And so they'll tell the effects house, either you move to Canada with us at this low price that for us, or we're just gonna hire a Canadian company to do the effects. So then VFX artists are like, well, all right, like, well, we're gonna spend the next 8 months in Canada working for a pittance.
So has that changed? Because this documentary is old, right?
Yeah, it's from 11 years ago, but things are still just as bad as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Like, did this change anything, or is it all just the same?
As far as I know, it's still pretty much the same. I know that there have been some talks about making it cheaper to shoot in California. Because California is ridiculous. Like shooting in LA and in California is just crazy expensive.
I was just listening to a pod, a movie pod that was talking about that, how like things aren't shot in LA. Like that's why you move there.
Yeah.
They're like, it's someone who I'll just say it's Unspooled, which is a movie podcast I listen to a lot. I like them because they do like one episode is a movie. So instead of just like movie news, which I have a podcast for that. So this was their most recent one, was Trainspotting, which I love. I love that movie. So, and they were just kind of talking about this exact thing. And she's one of the co-hosts is the movie reviewer for the LA Times. And she's like, yeah, my boyfriend has to like go shoot somewhere else for 3 months because it's too expensive to shoot in LA. I'm like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
Well, what's the point of moving to LA? That's why you move there.
Right.
To be in the movies, not move there to then go to Atlanta or New Mexico, where a lot of this stuff is filmed now. That's just crazy to me. It's like, that's one of the biggest draws California's ever had. And now that's not even a draw anymore.
Yeah.
And now that so many things are like digital, like you can submit from anywhere. I mean, of course, in-room auditions are always going to be a thing, but like people once you're in some things, the casting directors might be fine. Like you could live anywhere now. Like there isn't going to be a Hollywood.
Right. Yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. And part of the reason, not part of the reason, but the documentary has footage of Obama giving a speech in Glendale. And he's talking about, like the thriving entertainment industry is what makes this country great, and I want to make it easier. And so like the crowd was filled with a lot of filmmakers who were like, yeah, you're right. Like we were like supporting what he was saying. But that was in 2010, 2011, and it seems like things have not changed, and they might have even gotten worse.
It seems that way. Like that's crazy to me. The point, like California, it's sunny. Southern California, it's sunny like the vast majority of the time, and you have different types of terrain. You have the ocean, you have desert, you have
we've got mountains and forests.
Like so it's all within a few hours.
Yep.
You have this whole different ecosystems. Like why? I just don't get. Like I'm sorry, I just don't get why. Like these blue states do this to themselves. I live in one too, and what's funny is that Netflix just opened a big studio right in New Jersey.
Oh wow!
And it was an old military base or something up in Monmouth County, and they're opening like something there. So, which was why when I wrote that thing, everything you love is about comes from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you love is because of New Jersey, where like the first Hollywood started in New Jersey. Obviously, it wasn't Hollywood yet. The first movie making because everything was made in New York. So where would they go and film? They'd go film in New Jersey, where you had different types of terrain also because it wasn't built up.
Right.
Then that all went to California. I know some of that's coming back to New Jersey.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? Like California, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. I mean, it's bad enough that it's expensive to live here and to just have like a regular day job here. But yeah, it's crazy.
Isn't one of the benefits of it that like you have, because you guys attract uber rich people, that they pay taxes that then help fund other things that again doesn't lower the cost of California's expensive as fuck. Like LA is super expensive, but if you don't have those wealthy people, they're not going to live there to begin with, because why do they have to? Right. If they don't even film there anymore, like things will be moved all over the country. And maybe that is better. I don't know. But then really there's going to be like, it's just they're going to have to cut a lot of things if you don't have the millions and billions of dollars that California gets from taxes from people in the industry, whether they're actors or directors or producers, whatever it is.
All of our money is going towards like these fucking like perforated pieces of metal that are used for shade. Do you remember that from a couple years ago?
No.
So this because the city of LA is run by a bunch of fucking retards. So like they at bus stops, they created this type of shade. It luckily didn't go through, but like it was shade. And it was just like probably like a skateboard sized shape and shape of metal.
Yeah.
And it's perforated, but it gave you just like the smallest amount of shade. But they spent like millions of dollars developing this stupid thing. It's like, okay, only one person can stay under this thing at a bus stop, and it's like that's like $80 worth of Home Depot material. Like I can do that in a weekend. Like why is this costing millions of dollars? And luckily it didn't catch on, and it was like a huge laughing stock. But it's like like you guys blew so much fucking money on this, and it's like you might as well just put a skateboard on. It's
like shocking how inept and incompetent the people in local government are. And again, I don't mean that broadly. Like I'm sure, because it's one of those things where it's like there are plenty of competent people. I don't hear about them because they just do their jobs as normal things. So it's places like California, not like California, places like San Francisco and LA, places like New York, where the people who get into this are the most like ideological and make just the most boneheaded, expensive decisions, and they have no accountability. A lot of them just like bureaucrats, like sure the mayor, but like the mayor gets voted out or the city council is just the next person up. It's just the same dumb ideas. So I don't know, man, but it is funny that you said that, because I literally heard that today, like an hour before we recorded. And I was kind of thinking that too. I'm like, wait a minute. If everyone is filming in Atlanta and New Orleans and New Mexico and all these other places, I know Vancouver is Vancouver's like a Pacific Northwest expensive place. Why there over LA? Like, what are they doing? Like Canada's not cheap. Like what?
But they do offer tax credits, I guess. Like maybe because like they're bringing jobs to the area or something.
Right. So so I'm like, who is filming in California. And the Paul Scheer, who's the other co-host of the podcast, was saying like they have all these soundboards or whatever that are just empty, and all the stuff got built just to get it built, but then no one uses it. And just kind of crazy shit like that, like industry things that I just don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it seems like if LA doesn't have Hollywood, I mean, it's just going to be any other city.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big, sprawling any other city where, I mean, I don't know, it might help in some ways, but it's really losing the luster of what makes Southern California, Southern California.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And there was some actor, I think it was Rainn Wilson. I'm pretty sure it was an actor from The Office, but they were on a podcast recently, and they said they were talking about how expensive it's gotten to shoot in LA since shooting The Office, which only ended 8 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. So just in that small time span, they were talking about how expensive it's gotten to shoot in LA, and they're like, if we were shooting The Office today, we would be shooting it in Budapest because like you can find. Like a regular, like, American looking city or town, dress it up a little bit, and it would cost, an eighth of the cost of what it would take to shoot.
That's so funny. Yes, that's true. There's like other international places too where people shoot. Where it's like, why why is, and of course, Hungary is not the most liberal place. And like that doesn't seem to bother them when it helps their bottom line. And I like a lot of Hungary's views. It's NATO populist, whatever, pro-Christian, all that stuff. I'm all for that stuff. But the Hollywood people, they'll take those credits. They'll take that. They'll leave their scruples at home back in LA to get those Hungarian, the cheap Hungarian setting. Yeah.
But no, it's. I still don't know why there's not like a concerted effort from studios and executives and even the celebrities to like lobby for reducing like the red tape and the increased tax incentives to shoot, because it seems like something where it's like this brings jobs, and even a lot of low level jobs. There's still a lot of like kind of, I mean, like truck drivers and stuff, like, so it's like this would help the economy a lot.
Sure. Yeah, it's tons of people that you don't even think of that are just like ancillary, but are critical to the whole ecosystem of movie making.
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing. Like it's as much as we shit on it, like it's a huge part of our culture, and I love that about it. Like I've traveled a lot. Our movies, our culture is our biggest export. We have this idea that all these people around the world hate it. They don't. They actually love to talk to Americans about one of the biggest things: our movies, our music. Our like, I went to a Tarantino bar in Barcelona. I just stumbled upon it.
Oh wow!
It's like it's just like tons of, and so I think it's already pretty decentralized. I think, but to lose where it's just going to become like so many other things. It's just going to be a shell. It's going to be like the museum. It's where these things used to happen, and people will still go for that reason, but it'll be a tourist thing. It's like Little Italy in New York, where the Italian, like there are very Italian sections of New York, but it's not Little Italy anymore.
Right.
But there's a handful of stores and bars and restaurants that people from China go and they see that, or people from wherever, and it's still like called Little Italy, but it's just a shell of what it used to be.
That sucks.
And I hope, I don't want that to happen in LA either. Like again, it's a cool thing. It's a very like having that. I've always loved Southern California for this. Like I actually always thought I would live in Southern California, or maybe somewhere in the South, either like Florida, SoCal, Hawaii, like someplace like that. Always thought I'd live somewhere like that. And and that was part of it. I love that culture. And who knows? I don't know. But something's got to give. I think people eventually, there's going to be some straw that's going to break the camel's back, and they're just going to realize like we have to make changes here. Like we have to make this more affordable, more desirable. We can't just pass on our laurels anymore. Like it's just too many other places are appealing. So we'll see.
I know. And it sucks. I remember coming to LA a few times before I moved to LA. So like in my early mid 20s, to visit friends or to go on like a little road trip. And sometimes we'd just be driving, through some neighborhood, and then like the whole street would be blocked off because they're shooting a movie. It's like, holy shit, like that's so fucking cool. I mean,
yeah, I'd find that very annoying. I did live in when I lived in New Orleans. I think I only lived there for a few years, and they shot just in my neighborhood like 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah.
Just in those few years, just in my neighborhood. Like I wasn't even in the French Quarter. Like I was in a residential section in New Orleans. And,
right.
And yeah, I found that pretty fucking annoying, to be honest. But
yeah, I think for me, I just think it's cool. I know. Well, I mean, like when it happens, it hasn't happened too much recently in Highland Park, but probably like 8 or 9 times I've seen them blocking off parts of the street to shoot something.
That's just I think got killed. Someone got stabbed by a homeless person, so they're blocking it off.
But I mean, it's never been a problem for me because I mean, like I can just walk. I don't have to I'm not getting stuck in traffic. But yeah, I mean, it sucks, and yeah, and it's just weird because I mean, like even if you're a visual effects artist, you're still not making, like you're still basically like a contractor. Like there's like unless you're super high up or you're doing something really administrative, there's no like salaried positions really. So these guys do not live lavish lifestyles. So yeah, check out the documentary and let me know what you think. It's pretty short.
Yeah, I will. Maybe we'll talk about it more when I can contribute.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, stay right. Oh, and then be sure to follow us and donate to our Patreon.
Yeah, join our Patreon.
And stay reckless.
Fight the crits.